Hi everyone, it's Adam with Milo's Restoration, and today I've got a video for you about painting a metal table base and just kind of a general video about how I paint metal. There's a lot of different ways to do it, but for the purposes of furniture, this is kind of how I typically would do it, starting with a piece that's already been painted. So the first thing I'm going to do is just assemble this, and I really don't want to try and mask it. I really just want to get the metal that needs to be painted off from the wood parts of the table. So after I got the base separated from the table, I brought it outside and I put down some grip right roofing paper. That's just what I use because it's actually cheaper than underlayment. I mean, not underlayment, than, masking or drop cloths whenever you kind of add up, the total cost to do everything. So, yeah, it's kind of semi-disposable. So I'll use this paint stripper from Sherwin-Williams that's called Strippies. It's made by Savagran, and they also make another one called Super Strip. It's pretty good. It works pretty well. You just have to make sure that you do this in the shade and not out in the sun, otherwise the stripper will dry out and stop working. But for something like this, I'm pretty sure that this paint is going to come off pretty easily. As you can see here, it's pretty much fallen off. There's another layer of green paint underneath it that I'll have to get to, and probably just do this in multiple passes. Um, the way that I dispose of this is basically that my concrete is sloped to where it kind of all drains, and I just pick it up with a broom or something like that and dispose of it. So this definitely took a couple of goes with, putting the paint stripper on, washing it off, putting the paint stripper on, washing it off, kind of rinse and repeat. But eventually, it did all come off. I'd say 99% of it came off, but before I made the final pass with the pressure washer, I took some solvent and I just scrubbed as much of it off as I could in this kind of tight crevices and stuff like that. And then I'll take the pressure washer and just clean everything off and then put rust treatment on it. So I've got the turbo nozzle on the pressure washer. It's not really working right. It's not really oscillating like it's supposed to, but it's really not that important. This is probably a bigger pressure washer than most people have at home, but it's not really that important. It's really just about getting that little bit of residual paint paste off. And obviously, if you have a more high power pressure washer and it's metal, then it doesn't hurt to have that. It definitely helps out. So after that was done and it had dried off, I put some rust treatment on it. And you have to be careful with this stuff because it will etch concrete, but I'm kind of not really too worried about that right here. And also, it's a pretty weak concentration of acid in my experience. So after I sprayed that rust treatment on, you could see that there was still a few areas where I had a little bit of paint left, but not much, mostly just a little bit of rusty metal. I ended up getting all that off with a wire wheel, although I don't have that on here, but yeah, after I was done with the rust treatment, I just rinsed it off with the pressure washer again and tried to get those little specks of orange paint off. So I was kind of in a rush and I don't have all of the film that I really wish that I did to show you step by step after I got this rinsed off from the rust treatment. But I dried it off really well, and then I used a Nylox wire wheel kind of deal to, abrade the surface and make sure everything was clean. And I also used a rust primer on it, just spot primed the areas that were rusted. And then I mixed up some DTM from Sherwin-Williams. This is the oil based, and I thinned it by about 20%. And I'm using I think it's like a 1.8 in my spray gun. And basically, yeah, this is it. It's ready to paint after you've put that rust primer on and gotten everything ready. this is a really good product right here. It's direct to metal. And yeah, really, that's it. Oh, and also this color is Sherwin-Williams Moroccan Spice. It's kind of like a reddish color. So one reason I prefer the oil-based DTM over the water-based is that whenever you thin water-based coatings, it tends to break down the chemical properties of the coating a lot more and kind of jeopardize the ability for the coating to adhere. With water-based products, thinning past 5 to 10% is really not a good idea. I found that oil-based products can really be thinned a lot more safely. I don't really know scientifically the reason for that. I just have found it through practical experience. If you're curious what that black stuff that was on the table base, like applied really heavily around the bottom and in kind of some other areas, that was the rust primer. So I just sprayed that in those areas and then I kind of sanded it a little bit and then sprayed this on top. They're both oil-based products, so they're pretty compatible. You can really use any brand of that you want. Rust-Oleum makes a pretty good rust primer. So I couldn't find any of the film from sanding in between coats, but I did sand with, again, a wire wheel. And when I say a Nylox wire wheel, basically what it is, it's like a wire wheel for a grinder or for a drill, but it's made of nylon, so it's not as abrasive as a typical wire wheel, but it's great for sanding curves like this piece has. And really, that's the only thing that I know that can really sand this thing efficiently. So I think it has around 220 or like 180 grit. It's the blue one, the Nylox wheel. And I used that in between coats, and I did 2 coats of this product. So this is the last of the second coat here, almost done. I typically, like when I'm spraying a piece like this with an oil-based paint, because oil-based paint takes a while to dry and to flash off, I'll typically turn the spray gun way down to where it's just kind of barely spraying, and I'll just try to move the gun around to make sure that I get all the different angles. And since it's oil based, it's not going to flash off very quickly. If you tried this with a lacquer, it would really not work very well. So I'm just getting everything put back together and probably going to get it delivered soon. This client had this table for a long time and they just couldn't really deal with the peeling paint anymore, so they got me to take care of it, and they were working with an interior designer that I work with a lot, and she chose this color, and I like it a lot. It's definitely an underused color by Sherwin Williams, but I really could see myself using this in some of my other pieces soon as well. So after I get these last few screws in here, I'll be just about done. And I hope that you've enjoyed this video and it's kind of taught you about painting metal. This kind of can be used on any kind of patio furniture or really anything. Obviously something that's going to be used in kind of an automotive setting, that would be a little bit different process. But given that information, painting metal is kind of easier in a sense because you can just take a pressure washer and blow all the paint stripper off, whereas with wood furniture, obviously you can't do that. But yeah, if you want to see more content like this, please subscribe, and thanks for watching Milo's Restoration.